A couple of months ago during Margali, I saw dancer and author Kalaimamani Lakshmi Vishwanathan do a series of thematic dance presentations on Thanjavur and its rich artistic legacy. As you all know, this is a very significant year, not just for Thanjavur but for our entire country, because the Brihadishwara temple completes its 1000th year of consecration in 2010-2011. So Lakshmi's performances were a celebration of this glorious occasion. My conversation with her will be interspersed with visuals of her performance at the Bharatiya Vidya Bhavan on the theme Thanjavur. Lakshmi, I've really been looking forward to this, so thank you for coming.
It's my pleasure, Anu.
You know, I thought it would be an apt beginning to our conversation if we started with talking about Emperor Rajaraja Chola's deep and abiding devotion to Lord Brihadishwara, who he considered the supreme deity. So not only is the awe-inspiring and magnificent Lord Brihadishwara temple decorated with sculptures on all sides of Lord Brihadishwara among other stunning sculptures. I want to start with this point because I thought we could gradually lead to your performance celebrating this fact.
Yes, I think the important thing about Thanjavur, it was a new beginning for Shiva worship. Rajaraja wanted to make Shiva worship the ultimate form of religion, and for this reason he wanted to build the biggest temple, as you know. It has not been surpassed even today. And what he did was almost like a challenge to Vishnu's 10 avatars. He brought out 25 aspects of Shiva in sculptural forms right around the temple. In fact, studying these was an inspiring force for me to choreograph my Varnam in Kamas, where the author, that is the Tanjore Quartet, speak about how Brihadishwara is the ultimate in the entire universe. So I took ideas from aspects of Shiva like Kalyana Sundara, Lingodbhava, and Bhikshadana and so on, including Nataraja, of course, who was known as Adavallan in Rajaraja's time, and incorporated it into my choreography because bhakti can be shown in many ways, and our mythologies provide a fantastic plethora of ideas for choreography.
Lord Brihadishwara, also known as Peruvudayar, Great God or Lord of all worlds. In fact, the Brihadishwara temple was originally known as the Rajarajeshwaram temple, named after the mighty builder, the emperor.
Yes. Became an iconic royal temple. See, there were temples for Shiva before this, but this was the first, I think, monumental royal temple, and everything around it, like the entire kingdom over which Rajaraja ruled, became the subjects and the contributor to the might of this temple. And later kings of the Nayak and Maratha dynasty took it upon themselves to not only consecrate this temple and treat it with a great reverence, but added beautiful architectural features like the Subramanya shrine built by the Nayaks and a big mandapam with beautiful mural paintings by the Maratha rulers. And as you know, the dance was revived in the Tanjavur court of the Nayak and Marathas. In fact, the Tanjore quartet were employed by the Maratha kings of Tanjore. So dancers danced both in court, in what is known as the Sangeeta Mahal, and also in the temple. The court dances were of course more sensual in nature and more poetic, whereas the temple dances were more ritualistic. And this Varnam brings out the Sringara and the Bhakti. There is the great acknowledgement of the king as the patron, and also the underlying Sringara element which is so important in Bharatanatyam.
So Lakshmi, your connection to Thanjavur is mainly through your gurus, yes?
Yes, culturally through my gurus, and also culturally and socially through my ancestors. We were brought up having a great connection to our roots, that is Thanjavur, both in music, dance, sculpture, religious activities, and just the festivities of temple life and so on. So I grew up with this attachment to all the temples in the Thanjavur area and felt very strongly for the music to begin with. Then of course the dance and the content of the dance, that was very important. And as you know, the Tanjore quartet, they have recorded manuscripts in which they have the kautvams, which were purely ritualistic. And these were dances which were revived in the early 20th century, because the Natesha Kautvam, for example, when Nataraja was brought out in procession in the temple, temple dancers were asked to perform this out in the open in the courtyards and celebrate Adavallan or Nataraja in a very big way.
Lakshmi, the dancers, they performed within a confined space. They danced either in the forecourt or in the courtyard of the temple, in between four pillars, right? So
yes,
that must have hugely restricted their movements.
You see, they had the freedom of movement within a space which was meant to be sacred. So naturally the choreography also was restricted to that space. I think they had more space in the palace where they could perform elaborate jatis. But within the temple, it was always in front of the deity, surrounded by a host of people who were watching them, and also accompanied by their musicians who invariably stood behind them. So there was this Chinna Melam and Periya Melam, whereas the Nadaswaram Vidwans walked ahead. The dancers were the next in line, and they always faced the deity who was coming out in procession.
That was Aarti and Satya from the Madras University. Stay tuned, because after a short break, Lakshmi Vishwanathan will talk in greater detail about the Tanjore Quartet and also perform to some beautiful compositions of theirs only on Off the Record, Treasures of Thanjavur.